My son's fiancée looked me dead in the eye and said I should move to a retirement community because this house was wasting its potential on someone my age. My name is Michael Patterson, and at 63 years old, I never imagined I'd be called obsolete in the home I built with my own two hands. I spent 37 years as a commercial airline pilot for Delta, flew 747 seconds across the Pacific, carried hundreds of thousands of passengers safely through storms, mechanical failures, and once, an engine fire over the Atlantic that made the evening news. I retired 4 years ago, 2 months after I buried my wife Linda. Some people thought I retired because of her death. The truth is, I couldn't focus anymore. Every time I sat in that cockpit, I'd think about coming home to an empty house, and that's not the mindset you want at 35,000 feet with 300 souls behind you. The house sits on Lake Norman, about 40 minutes north of Charlotte. Linda and I bought the property in 1989, back when this area was still considered countryside. It wasn't much, just an old fishing cabin on 2 acres with a dock that looked like it might collapse if you sneezed near it. But Linda saw something I didn't. She always did. We spent 5 years renovating it ourselves, every weekend, every vacation day. I did the structural work, the dock, the deck. Linda handled everything inside. She had this gift for making spaces feel like home. The stone fireplace was her design, the window seat overlooking the lake where she'd read every Sunday morning, the garden that attracted hummingbirds every spring. After she died, people kept telling me to sell. Too many memories, they said. Too much house for one person. But those memories were exactly why I stayed. Every corner held a piece of her. The kitchen where we'd cook together. The deck where we'd watch sunsets. The bedroom where I held her hand the night before she went into hospice. Leaving would feel like abandoning her all over again. My son Ryan came by one Saturday in March, about 8 months ago. He's 32, works as an accountant at a firm in Charlotte. Good kid, stable. Never gave me problems growing up. He called ahead, which wasn't unusual, but his voice sounded different, excited in a way I hadn't heard since he was a teenager. He pulled up in his Audi around noon with a woman I'd never met. She stepped out wearing white jeans and a designer top, sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Everything about her screamed effort, the kind of effort that's really about being seen. "Dad, this is Chelsea," Ryan said, practically glowing. "I've been wanting you two to meet." She extended her hand, and her grip was limp. The kind of handshake that tells you someone's already decided you're not worth their full attention. "Ryan talks about you constantly," she said, but her eyes were scanning the house, the property, cataloging everything like she was doing a property assessment. We went inside, and I made coffee. Ryan was nervous, talking too fast, filling silences. Chelsea walked through my living room like she was touring an open house. She stopped at the photos on the mantel. Wedding pictures, Linda and me on our anniversary trips, Ryan's graduation. "These are so vintage," she said, not sweetly, like she was commenting on something she found at a thrift store. "That's my late wife," I said quietly. "Oh, Ryan mentioned her." She turned away, already moving on. "This house has amazing bones. The location is incredible. Lake access, the deck." She walked to the window. "You could get so much for this if you updated it. I'm not looking to sell." "Oh, I didn't mean now," she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just saying. Eventually." Ryan jumped in. "Chelsea works in social media marketing. She's really good at seeing potential in things." "That's wonderful," I said, even though something in my gut was telling me this woman saw my home as nothing more than an investment opportunity. They stayed for lunch. Chelsea barely touched the sandwich I made, picked at the pasta salad, kept checking her phone. She asked questions, but they weren't about me. How long had I owned the house? What was the property worth? Had I considered what I'd do with it long term? When I mentioned I planned to stay here as long as I could, she laughed. "But it's so much space for one person. And the maintenance. At your age, wouldn't something simpler make more sense?" At my age, like 63 was ancient. Like I wasn't still running 5 miles 3 times a week and doing all my own yard work. Ryan shot her a look, but he didn't defend me. That's what I noticed. "My son, who I raised to stand up for people, who I taught to respect his elders, just sat there and let this woman talk about me like I was a burden waiting to happen. After they left, I stood on the deck for a long time, watching the sun set over the lake. Linda used to say you could tell a lot about a person by how they treat other people's memories. Chelsea had walked through our home like it was already hers to erase. The visits became more frequent after that. Every other weekend, Ryan would bring Chelsea by. Each time, she'd make comments. The furniture was outdated. The color scheme was depressing. The decor was so 80s. She never said Linda's name. It was always the previous design choices, or what was here before. One afternoon in May, she brought fabric swatches. "I was thinking," she said, spreading them across my kitchen table uninvited, "if you ever wanted to freshen things up, these neutrals would really open up the space. That wallpaper in the dining room is so dark. My wife chose that wallpaper." Right. But it's been, 4 years? Might be time for something new. Moving forward, you know? Ryan was in the bathroom. It was just her and me. I looked at this 28-year-old woman telling me it was time to move forward from my wife of 34 years, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. "Chelsea," I said carefully, "I appreciate your interest in design, but this house is staying exactly as it is." She smiled that smile again, the one that was all teeth and no warmth. "Of course. I'm just brainstorming. Ryan mentioned you might want help making it more modern eventually." Ryan hadn't mentioned anything to me. That evening, after they left, I called Ryan. "Did you tell Chelsea I wanted to modernize the house?" He hesitated. "She was just trying to be helpful, Dad. She's really good at this stuff. I don't need help. I'm happy with my home the way it is." I know. But you have to admit, some updates wouldn't hurt. That wallpaper is pretty dated. Your mother picked that wallpaper. Silence. Then, maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're holding on too tight. I almost dropped the phone. This was my son, the boy Linda rocked to sleep, the teenager I taught to drive, the man I walked through his mother's funeral, and he was telling me I was holding on too tight to her memory. "Ryan, what's going on with you?" "Nothing. I just think Chelsea has some good points. You're alone in this big house. You could sell it, get something smaller, have more money for retirement, for travel, for living your life instead of maintaining a museum to the past." A museum. He called the home we built together a museum. Is this what Chelsea thinks? Or what you think? Does it matter? "Dad, I'm worried about you. We both are." We. They were a we now, and I was somehow the problem they needed to solve. June came, and with it, Ryan's announcement. They were engaged. He called me on a Wednesday evening, voice full of excitement. They'd been dating less than a year, but he was sure she was the one. He wanted my blessing. What was I supposed to say? That I thought his fiancée was manipulative? That I'd watched her slowly change him? That the son who used to spend Sundays with me on the boat now barely called unless Chelsea was orchestrating the visit? I gave him my blessing because he was my son. And sometimes love is letting people make their own mistakes. The engagement party was at a restaurant in Charlotte, one of those trendy places with small plates and big prices. Chelsea had planned everything. She gave a speech about their love story that made Ryan sound like a prince who'd rescued her from a life of struggle, conveniently leaving out that her parents owned 3 car dealerships in South Carolina. I was talking with my old co-pilot, Marcus, when Chelsea approached with Ryan. "Michael, we wanted to talk to you about something exciting." She always called me Michael, never Mr. Patterson, never Dad, even though Ryan had started calling her parents Mom and Dad on day 1. "We've been thinking about the wedding," Ryan said, "and we'd love to have it at the lake house. The deck, the view, it would be perfect. Small ceremony, close family, and friends." I looked at my son, trying to find the boy I raised somewhere in this man who just asked to have his wedding at his dead mother's favorite place, without acknowledging what that might mean to me. "That's a big event to host," I said carefully. "We'd handle everything," Chelsea jumped in. "Planners, caterers, all of it. You wouldn't have to do anything except let us use the space. It would be such a special way to, make new memories there." Make new memories. Code for Help you get over your dead wife. When were you thinking? 4th of July weekend, Chelsea said. It's perfect timing, and we could do this amazing red, white, and blue theme. Very patriotic, very summer. We've already contacted vendors. They'd planned it before asking me. They'd contacted vendors for an event at my house before I'd even agreed. Can I think about it? Chelsea's smile tightened. Of course. But we do need to know soon. These vendors book up fast. I thought about it. I thought about Linda, about what she would have wanted. She would have wanted her son to be happy. She would have wanted him to have a beautiful wedding, but she also would have seen right through Chelsea. Linda had a sense about people, a way of reading them that I was only now developing. I told them yes. What else could I do? This was my son's wedding, but I set conditions. Nothing permanent could be changed. No alterations to the house or property. They could decorate for the day, but it all had to be removed after. Chelsea agreed so quickly I knew she'd never planned to follow through. The planning took over. Chelsea was at the house constantly, measuring, photographing, bringing her wedding planner. She'd walk through rooms critiquing everything. The couch was too bulky. The artwork was dreary. The photos of Linda needed to come down for the wedding because they'd clash with the aesthetic. I found her in my bedroom one afternoon, going through Linda's jewelry box. What are you doing? She jumped. Oh, I was just looking. Ryan said your wife had some beautiful pieces. I thought maybe I could wear something of hers for the wedding. You know, something old. She had her hands on Linda's pearls. The ones I'd given Linda for our 20th anniversary. The ones Linda wore every Sunday to church. The ones I'd buried her in, then couldn't bear to, so I'd removed them before they closed the casket. Put those back. I was just looking. Ryan said you'd probably want them to stay in the family. They are staying in the family. They're staying right where they are. She set them down, but the damage was done. She'd been in my bedroom, in Linda's things, without asking, and Ryan had told her it would be fine. I called my son that night. Your fiancée was in my bedroom going through your mother's jewelry. She mentioned she wanted to wear something of Mom's. I thought you'd be touched. I'd be touched if she'd asked. She was going through drawers, Ryan. That's not okay. Dad, you're being unreasonable. She was trying to honor Mom. By taking her things without permission, she wasn't taking anything. God, why do you have to make everything difficult? I hung up. My son had just called me difficult for not wanting his fiancée to raid his dead mother's jewelry box. The weeks before the wedding were a nightmare. Chelsea brought contractors to, quote, minor updates. She wanted to repaint the deck, replace the dock lights, remove the flower garden because it would look messy in photos. Each time I said no, she'd smile and say she understood, then go to Ryan, who would call me to reconsider. It's just paint, Dad. It's just lights, Dad. It's just flowers, Dad. It was never just anything. It was my life with Linda being systematically erased by a woman who saw our history as nothing more than obstacles to her vision. 3 days before the wedding, Chelsea showed up with a crew. They started taking down photos without asking. Linda's watercolors that used to hang in the hallway. The wedding photos from the mantel. Even the small picture of Linda I kept on the kitchen windowsill. What are you doing? Chelsea turned, holding a box full of my wife's memory, creating a clean canvas for the wedding photos. Don't worry, we'll put everything back after. We'll store it all safely in the garage. I didn't agree to this. Ryan said you were fine with it. Ryan doesn't make decisions about my house. She set the box down, and her mask finally slipped. No more fake smiles. No more pretend politeness. You know what your problem is, Michael? You're stuck in the past. This house, these pictures, all of it is just you refusing to accept that life moves on. Ryan and I are trying to build a future, and you're clinging to a woman who's been dead for 4 years. I felt like she'd punched me. This woman, in my home, telling me my grief had an expiration date. Get out. Excuse me? Get out of my house. Take your crew. Get out. The wedding is in 3 days. I don't care. Get out. She called Ryan. He showed up within an hour. Furious. What is wrong with you? She was just trying to help. She called your mother a dead woman I need to get over. She didn't mean it like that. Dad, you're being paranoid and unreasonable. This is my wedding. Our wedding. And you're sabotaging it because you can't handle Chelsea having opinions. She's not having opinions, Ryan. She's erasing your mother. Maybe that's exactly what this place needs. I stared at my son. 32 years. I'd given him 32 years of my life, raised him with Linda, taught him values, integrity, respect, and he just told me erasing his mother was what my home needed. Get out, both of you. Ryan's face went red. Fine. We'll have the wedding anyway. This property is going to be mine someday, and when it is, the first thing I'm doing is selling it. They left. I sat on the deck, shaking, watching the lake turn gold in the sunset. Linda's lake, our lake, and my son wanted to sell it. 4th of July arrived. I'd told them the wedding was canceled, that they needed to make other arrangements. Ryan called me every name he could think of. Selfish, bitter, cruel. Chelsea sent emails about how much money I was costing them, how I'd ruined their special day, how she'd never forgive me for this. But at 8 a.m. on the 4th, cars started pulling up. Catering vans, the florist, the wedding planner. They were doing it anyway. They were having the wedding at my house without my permission. I walked outside. The planner, a woman named Diane, looked uncomfortable when she saw me. Mr. Patterson. I tried to tell them this wasn't appropriate, but they insisted the venue was confirmed. It's not. This wedding is not happening here. Ryan's car pulled up. He got out, wearing his tux, Chelsea beside him in a white robe over her dress. They walked up to me like they owned the place. Dad, don't make a scene. Everything's here. Guests are coming. You can either let this happen gracefully or embarrass yourself. This is my property, and I'm your son, your only son, the only family you have left. And if you cancel this wedding, if you humiliate us like this, you'll never see me again. That's your choice. Your pride or your son. I looked at Ryan, really looked at him, and I realized I'd already lost him. The boy I raised wouldn't blackmail his father, wouldn't disrespect his mother's memory, wouldn't choose a woman who'd been in our lives less than a year over the man who'd raised him. You're right, I said quietly. That is my choice. Chelsea smiled, thinking she'd won. And I choose my pride. I choose your mother's memory. I choose the values I tried to teach you that you've clearly forgotten. Ryan's face went white. You're serious. I've never been more serious. This wedding is not happening here. You need to leave. All of you need to leave. I'm not going anywhere, Chelsea snapped. We have a contract with these vendors. Guests are arriving. You can't stop this. Actually, I can. This is private property, and you're trespassing. Ryan, do something, Chelsea hissed. My son just stood there, torn between the woman he thought he loved and the father he was throwing away for her. I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. Hey, buddy. Remember how you said if I ever needed anything to call? I need something. Marcus had been my co-pilot for 15 years. More than that, he'd been Linda's friend. He'd been at her funeral. He'd checked on me every week for a year after she died. He'd known Linda almost as long as I had. On my way, he said without hesitation. Then I called Tom and Janet, my neighbors who'd lived 3 houses down for 20 years. I need your help. Be right there, Tom said. I called 6 more people, all of them friends, all of them people who'd known Linda, all of them people who understood what this house meant. Within 40 minutes, my driveway was full, but not with wedding guests, with my people. Marcus showed up with 4 other retired pilots from our crew. Tom and Janet brought their adult kids. My old neighbor Bill showed up with his wife. Even Father Morrison from the church Linda and I used to attend drove up. What's happening? Chelsea demanded. I'm leaving, I said. This house has become a battleground, and I'm tired of fighting, so I'm leaving. Chelsea's face lit up. She thought she'd won, finally, some sense. But I'm not leaving alone. I turned to Marcus, to Tom, to Father Morrison, to all these people who'd shown up because I asked. I want to show you all something. I walked them through the house. Every room, every photo Chelsea had tried to remove, every detail Linda had chosen. The wallpaper, the window seat, the garden. I told them stories about Linda picking out paint colors, about us installing the deck together, about the 4th of July parties we used to host, real ones, filled with laughter and love. This woman, I pointed at Chelsea, Called all of this a museum to the past. Called my wife someone I needed to get over. Wanted to erase every trace of Linda to make room for her aesthetic. And my son stood by and let it happen. Ryan's face was red. Some of his friends had started to arrive, hearing the commotion. His boss, Jim, who'd known me for years, was standing in the driveway, taking it all in. So here's what's happening, I continued. I'm leaving this house for the day. But so is everyone who respects me. Everyone who knew Linda. Everyone who understands that love and memory aren't obstacles to overcome. They're foundations to build on. I looked at the vendors. I'll pay your cancellation fees. Every penny. But this wedding isn't happening here. Then I looked at the early arriving guests. If you believe a marriage should be built on respect, on honoring the past while building the future, on treating family with dignity, you're welcome to leave with me. We're having a real 4th of July celebration. At the lake, like Linda would have wanted. Marcus stepped forward. I'm in. Tom and Janet. Us too. Father Morrison. Absolutely. One by one, the people who mattered stood with me. Ryan's boss, Jim, walked over. Ryan, I've known your father for 8 years. He helped my family when my daughter was sick. Let us stay at his lake house for a month so she could recover somewhere peaceful. What I'm seeing here today isn't the man I know. He turned to me. Count me in, Michael. Chelsea's face went from triumphant to horrified as she watched her wedding audience walk away. The vendors started packing up. Ryan's friends, the ones who'd met me, the ones who'd heard him talk about his mom. They looked confused, uncomfortable, and more than a few followed Jim's lead. Ryan, Chelsea shrieked. Stop them, do something. But Ryan just stood there, watching everything fall apart, finally seeing what he'd become. I walked to my truck. 15 cars followed me to the public lake access 2 miles away, where we spent the 4th of July the way Linda and I always had. With people who mattered, with stories and laughter, with respect for the past and hope for the future. My phone rang all day. Ryan called 47 times, left 23 voicemails, each one progressively more desperate. The wedding fell apart. Most guests didn't show up once word spread. The ones who did found a groom in a tux, standing in an empty yard with a bride screaming at everyone. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. I'd lost my son. Maybe I'd lost him months ago, the first time he chose Chelsea's comfort over my dignity. But this made it real. Marcus sat beside me on a bench overlooking the lake. You did the right thing. Did I? He's my son. And you're his father. You taught him better than this. Eventually, he'll remember. Or he won't. But you couldn't let them do that to Linda's memory. To your home. To you. That night, I went back to the house. It was empty. No decorations. No evidence. A wedding almost happened. Just my home. Exactly as it should be. Ryan showed up the next morning. Alone. He looked like he hadn't slept. She left me, he said. Chelsea. She said if I couldn't control my father, couldn't secure our future, she couldn't marry me. He wanted sympathy, wanted me to comfort him, but all I felt was tired. I'm sorry you're hurting. You're not sorry. You wanted this. No, Ryan. I wanted my son to find someone who loved him for who he is, not what he could inherit. I wanted you to find a partner who respected where you came from, not someone who wanted to erase it. She didn't want to erase it. She wanted to update it. She wanted to erase your mother, and you let her. He broke then, sat on my deck, and cried like he hadn't since Linda died. I miss her so much, Dad. Mom, I miss her every day. And Chelsea made it feel like missing her was wrong, like I needed to move forward. You do need to move forward, son. But forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying the best of what was into what comes next. We talked for hours. About Linda. About grief. About how he'd let Chelsea convince him that his grief was holding him back. That my grief was unhealthy. That the house was a prison instead of a sanctuary. I don't know if I can forgive myself, he said finally. You're human. You fell in love with the wrong person. You lost your way. But you're here now. That counts for something. He stayed for dinner. We sat on the deck and watched the sunset, just like we used to. It wasn't fixed. We weren't healed. But it was a start. 3 months later, I met someone. Her name was Patricia, and she was a widow too. Her husband had died 6 years ago from cancer. She understood grief. She understood memory. When she came to my house for the first time and saw Linda's photos, she didn't suggest taking them down. She asked me to tell her about them. Ryan came by one Sunday and found us having coffee on the deck. He was awkward at first, unsure how to feel about seeing me with someone who wasn't his mother. But Patricia was kind to him, asked about his life, didn't try to be anything she wasn't. After she left, Ryan said, "She's nice, Dad." "She is. Mom would have liked her." "Yeah, she would have." I didn't sell the house. Didn't update it to someone else's vision. Patricia loved it exactly as it was. She added her own touches. Small things, always asking first. A plant here. A throw pillow there. Not erasing Linda, but adding to the story. Ryan apologized more times than I could count. He paid back the vendor cancellation fees, even though I'd already covered them. He started coming by on Sundays again, sometimes with a woman named Amy who worked at his firm. Someone quiet, someone kind, someone who, when she saw Linda's photos, said she was beautiful. Ryan has her eyes. I don't know if my son and I will ever be exactly what we were. Chelsea changed something between us, revealed cracks in his character I'd never wanted to see. But we're rebuilding, slowly, like Linda and I rebuilt this house. Piece by piece, weekend by weekend, year by year. The 4th of July came around again. Ryan asked if he could host a barbecue at the house. Nothing big, just some friends and family. I said yes. Patricia made her potato salad. Tom and Janet came. Marcus and his wife showed up. Even Jim, Ryan's boss, stopped by with his family. We sat on the deck as the sun set, and I looked around at these people, this place, this life I'd built with Linda and was now building again with new chapters. Ryan caught my eye and raised his beer in a quiet salute. I raised mine back. Some people might say I should have just let them have the wedding, that it was just one day, that I was stubborn and proud and hurt my relationship with my son over something that didn't really matter. But it did matter. Respect matters. Memory matters. Teaching your children that love doesn't mean erasing everyone who came before. It means honoring them. That matters. Linda used to say that a house is just wood and stone until you fill it with love. This house is full of love. Her love. My love. The love of everyone who's passed through these doors and understood what it means to build something that lasts. And no amount of updating, no aesthetic vision, no pressure to move forward could make me abandon that. I'm 63 years old. I've flown through storms and engine fires. I've buried the love of my life and survived the aftermath. I've stood up to my own son when he forgot who he was. And I'm still here. In the house Linda and I built, with photos on the mantel and her garden growing wild every spring, with new friends and old memories, with a son who's learning, slowly, what it means to honor the past while building the future. That's not being stuck. That's being rooted. And there's a difference.